Celebrating 30 years of Nike's trailblazing slogan, Just Do It, Nike decided to highlight how this catchphrase has been able to motivate so many athletes of all levels of sports around the world. The Dream Crazy campaign is a compilation of rich stories from some of the best athletes, like Serena Williams and LeBron James, and those on their way to becoming big household names. The short film is narrated by Colin Kaepernick, who inspires the audience not to ask if their dreams are crazy, but if their dreams and goals are crazy enough, even if they seem impossible. Nike considers everyone to be an athlete, and the goal of this campaign is to motivate athletes to use the power of sport to overcome adversity and make the world that much better. In 2016, Colin Kaepernick, the former quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, took a knee during the national anthem as a means of public protest of police brutality. Social injustice and police brutality have been topics of discussion for far too long and have only been increasing within the past decade with the increase of fatal police shootings of unarmed African Americans. Reflecting back on his own personal experiences, Colin stated, "I couldn't stay standing and be proud of myself in this flag that represents a country that oppresses Black people and people of color. People are dying in the streets and murderers are getting away with it. To me, this event means more than football and I can't turn a blind eye." Kaepernick is the perfect spokesperson for this campaign because of his social influence, which may remain controversial to some, but was the best person for Nike to show their audience that they remain true to their core DNA of equity and fearlessness.
Nike's target audience. Two-thirds of Nike's brand consumers are under 35 years old and come from different ethnic and cultural backgrounds, and the probability of this group supporting this advertisement is relatively high. This is the consumer that Nike wants to reach the most and is the one who determines the outcome of sales. Difficult to alienate and leave the brand. Compared to leaving behind traditional and conservative people, winning the hearts of most young people who seek freedom and equality is more worth doing for Nike. Those are two reasons why Nike's target audience is millennial. The first one, millennial consumers feel a social responsibility to change the world in comparison to their procedures. Second one is millennials take engagement and experience into consideration with brands.
In 2016 and 2017, corporations were becoming more comfortable with this idea of voicing their opinion from a political standpoint. Nike capitalized on this trend. Studies report that two-thirds of consumers somewhat value when organizations take a stand on social issues. Nike's Kaepernick campaign quite literally took a stand. The message was clear. Nike's decision to elect Kaepernick for the campaign was intended to spark conversations and increase awareness on police brutality, racial injustice, and patriotism on a national level. The campaign ignited a potent mix of emotional appeal. While Nike athletes like LeBron James and Serena Williams praised and supported the campaign, others felt attacked. Additionally, many took to social media, cutting off the Nike logo. Some went as far as burning it. Yes, this was probably one of those campaigns where Nike had to outweigh the pros and the cons and whether or not it was worth it to choose Kaepernick. However, Nike's purpose was not to promote unity, but to hone in on the importance of the message without the disruption of corporate jargon. In other words, this is precisely why it made the headlines. Nike did not skew the message to align itself with the status quo or social norms. Instead, they took to the sports industry head on to emphasize societal controversies. The outreach captured the attention of supporters and non-supporters, resulting in more than $43 million worth of media coverage attention in less than 24 hours.
Sometimes we may wonder why people take in the substance and messages in different ways. The elaboration likelihood method is one method to see how an audience takes in the information presented to them, whether it's processed carefully or if it's processed superficially. We have two routes, the central and the peripheral route. We'll go into depth on each one and how it applies to our campaign on the next slide. When it comes to how target audiences process the information presented to them, it can either be one of two routes, peripheral or central. The peripheral route, our audience is a bit less invested in the subject at hand and forms opinions based on factors such as aesthetics, public figures used, or certain verbiage, such as the word sacrifice, for example, or the black and white imagery used in our campaign. These types of things that they look at are more surface level or quick hits that make them form an opinion. Central is a bit more than that. It's a little bit more cognitive, and they formulate an opinion based on other research and are more invested and interested in the topic. For our campaign, factors such as the social climate the campaign was launched in, the use of the certain public figures such as Colin Kaepernick, are vital in the opinion people formed in this target audience, since they want to look more into the background of what's going on and then form an opinion based on that.
It's obvious that the Dream Crazy campaign was very successful in that it generated a large profit for Nike, it increased the presence on social media, and overall added a great amount to the brand's value. However, it should also be assessed on the parameter that it redefined the role that brands play in society and in culture. The social discussion around the campaign should elevate the public understanding of the need for respect for all people of all colors and classes, and the debate and dialogue should result in a movement worth more than any award this campaign could have received. Because what's most important is that, in the long term, the evolution of our understanding on this topic and society's collective consciousness advances. The Dream Crazy campaign worked with the audience because it appealed to human nature. It connected emotionally with people, and they gained insight that let them stay culturally relevant and let them respond to the current context. It's difficult because cultures and values constantly evolve and change with each generation. But Nike touched on human psychological need for hope and justice, and the feeling that we want to know that society is moving towards a better and more inclusive future. Featuring Colin Kaepernick as the voice of the campaign was a strategic decision based on research and data that led Nike to trust that its consumer base would stand by the decision it made in championing for social justice. Reactance theory states that people have a fundamental need for freedom and autonomy. By using emotional appeals in the messaging towards social justice, integrity, and conviction, and powerful images with influential voices, this threatened people's self-perceptions and created an unpleasant state of dissonance. Cognitive dissonance theory holds that our reactions to these sorts of psychological stimuli tend to fall somewhere along a continuum on which each point represents a strategy for returning our consciousness back into cognitive balance. Sometimes this can only be done by accepting discomforting information, however painful or confusing it might be. When humans sense lack of authenticity, the result is cognitive dissonance. Being authentic is vital to motivate people to think and act. Nike was using highly relevant authority figures such as Serena Williams, Colin Kaepernick, and LeBron James, and this helped build the cause too, as it created emotional relevance and social proof. Because combined, they have defied societal barriers, racial restrictions, and lack of opportunities to overcome systemic limitations and subsequently advance societal awareness and shape new cultural norms. Likewise, the messages were consistent with the historical meaning of Nike as a brand. Frames or frames of reference are similar to a schema because we use them to understand and organize information, which lets our brains work more efficiently, and we can draw on casual interpretations and moral evaluations. Emotional language frames evoke strong associations, which helps people efficiently process a message's argument, which increases the ability to elaborate on a message, and subsequently processing the message through the central route will lead to long-term changes in attitude. By using emotional language frames in tweets, Nike was able to reach millions of people. A key takeaway from this campaign is that brands are being pressured to take a stand, and this campaign is reassurance that it pays off. Nike took the opportunity to follow its beliefs and do the right thing, even at the cost of losing customers. The campaign was purpose-led and authentic, and it started society in the long overdue conversation that will redefine our culture and set a new standard for how brands should responsibly live in the world. Perloff states that it's possible to increase tolerance for different points of view, and a message will be more persuasive if, when engaging on topics that people generally hold strong attitudes, beliefs, or moral values to, that we use the power of cognitive consistency and frame the arguments in terms of values that the audience affirms. Framing the message in this way could have prevented much of the polarization that surrounded this campaign.